This is Daybreak on Citizen Television. The hashtag on Twitter is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdi Kadir. With me in studio, Kadhiani lawmaker Robert Mbui, who as well is the Deputy Minority Leader, is with us in studio, as well as the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, who as well is the Uasin Gishu County Woman MP Gladys Bose-Sholei, with me in studio as we take stock of the developments over the weekend and the matter before Parliament this week, which is the Finance Bill 2023 and the contents therein. President William Ruto yesterday spoke in the county of Narok West, to be specific, where he called upon MPs to support the Finance Bill 2023 when Parliament resumes from recess tomorrow on Tuesday. It comes at a time when the Kenya Kwanza administration and the opposition, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition political party, are maintaining different scorecards on the contents of the bill. Here's what the president said yesterday in the county of Narok.
Nimesikia ya kwamba kuna watu wanasema ati siku ya finance bill kila mjumbe ajulikane amefanya kazi gani ama amepiga kura upande gani. Mimi nakubaliana ya kwamba kila mjumbe ajulikane amepiga kura wapi. Mimi nangojea mbunge mwenye anaenda kupiga kura ati kupinga mpango ya serikali kuwapatia hawa vijana ambao waliwapigia kura ati ajira. I am waiting for the members of parliament who will go and vote against the plan to give these young people, majority of them, their voters. I am waiting for them to go and vote against the employment of these young people. I am waiting for members of parliament to go and vote against housing that would give these people a chance to own a decent home with 5% mortgage when you yourself as a leader is getting a mortgage because of the taxes paid by the people of Kenya of 3%.
That was the head of state yesterday in the county of Narok, Honorable Gladys Bose-Sholei. Speaking about that, and then earlier on you pointed out the Singapore example of how it addressed its housing problems. Today, one of the models that many countries seek to emulate. But Lee Kuan Yew, as I've earlier on mentioned before I went to Honorable Mbui, had killed corruption in Singapore. That seems to be one factor which corrodes the public space in Kenya ever since independence. If then we are to move on that trajectory of the housing, to address the housing problem in Kenya and the Kenyan people getting services from the money they pay as taxes, how then do we also plan about ending corruption in Kenya?
Okay, when you say that what happened in Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew did not kill corruption, then start the housing program. He did them simultaneously. In fact, if you've read Lee Kuan Yew's book, From Third World to First World, the story is told of his very close friend, whom, when he started the housing development fund there, he appointed him to head it. And the gentleman was involved in corruption. And when it was exposed, because he was going to face the wrath of the president and the system, he hung himself. So it's not one after another. As they transformed Singapore, they went on the same journey at the same time to kill corruption. And that is what's going to happen. You can't say, we'll clear corruption, because corruption doesn't happen in a vacuum. Okay. It happens as you are undertaking operations. And that's why I said, let's not be such pessimists, such negative people that don't believe anything good can come out. And if you're a person like that, you will be stuck in one place. And that's why we have to tell ourselves, remember, we have a budget in Kenya. The budget, as designed, coming from all the various ministries, is saying these are the programs. We want to build these hospitals. The counties have a program and so on. The budget is developed. Then the finance bill is the one that gives the details of where the money is coming from. So, for example, what Honorable Mbui has talked about, the increase of VAT rate for petroleum products from 8% to 16%. The issue is VAT across board is 16%. For petroleum products, it's 8%. So there is a difference. What has happened to that is that it has created a whole loophole for corruption, actually. It has created a loophole. So what happens is, because of the differentiated rates, they have ways that they play with the books so that they are always on credit. So they are always owed VAT refund. So the best way is to actually remove the preferential rate for petroleum products, make it all a flat rate of 16%. It will, yes, and it will not affect the cost of fuel. Reason being, the international oil prices have since stabilized. So the change on VAT is not going to affect it. That's why I said, let's not just look at the finance bill as picking certain narratives and a line and then shout about it. Oh, they're increasing the cost of petroleum and then it's going, or VAT, so it's going to make everything in Kenya expensive. That's a very simplistic and deceptive way of looking at it.
Okay.
Because economists study this and tell you, so yes, and the revenue implication is about 51,143 million that we are going to raise as account of this.
Billion.
So yes, so the question you ask ourselves, the question you ask ourselves is that it is so well for Kenyans to say, we want roads, we want hospitals, we want to have better schools and so on. Those things don't come from the sky. Money doesn't rain from the skies. It is from the taxes. So when you develop a finance bill to correspond to finance your budget, remember you have your budget, then you have the finance bill that puts in changes and items that will finance your budget. So that you say, the following, I will be able to collect taxes, and then the shortfall, I will borrow. Okay. Remember, Kenya has gone now, the current government has said, we are going to cut down on borrowing. And the only way to cut down on borrowing is also to find new avenues for raising taxes. I mean, for raising revenue. The other issue is he mentioned the. Okay,
before you will respond to that, I need to hold you to account to what you said. Yes, certainly, of course, money doesn't rain from the sky. We all pay taxes, but you are making it sound like it's a privilege for Kenyans to get value for the taxes they pay rather than a right. What has been the problematic issue, Honorable?
No, it's a right. It's a right. I remember, and this is something I always remember President Kibaki, the late, for. He said, kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. He made it, for the first time, that time, there was a campaign, there were billboards everywhere saying, kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. It was telling Kenyans, you must take pride in paying taxes, because these taxes are going to make you not a slave of the people we borrow money from.
Okay, that point is noted, Honorable Shole.
Yes.
And Kenyans have been paying taxes. It certainly wasn't trading. But
we must account for those taxes. That I agree.
I was coming to that point.
Yes,
okay.
We must account, and it is something I will always champion. Okay. Because yes, let's pay the taxes, but let's make sure that that money is accounted for wherever it goes.
Okay.
And we must.
Do you then acknowledge governments, and that is, I'm using the term governments, the plural, the gross mismanagement of the funds collected from the Kenyan people in the previous administrations, a problem that's currently still with us here. No services in terms of healthcare. You look at our hospitals, you look at our system of education, a problem that the current president is also striving hard to address, including the CBC up to the university level. You look at our healthcare challenges, you look at our infrastructure. Then when will the Kenyan people, who you are saying that you want them to pay more to fund our development projects and what I have enumerated, get the value of the money that they have been paying for the past 60 years for those who are alive?
Believe me, as once this budget is passed and these very deliberate implementation processes are undertaken in, Kenyans will begin to see a change within 20 months.
20 months?
Yes, I believe that when I look at the calculation.
Okay.
And that's why I said I choose not to be a negative person.
Okay.
We had a bad government last time. We were disappointed by Jubilee. I was personally disappointed because I was in Jubilee. But did I give up and say, okay, I'll never represent the people again? this can go to hell. I didn't. I dusted myself, woke up again and said, you know what? We will try again. We are going to be part of a movement that's going to build a new party that will try and meet the aspirations of Kenyans. So give this government a chance. It's only been 6 months. Give it a chance. If they don't perform as promised, then you can begin to say those issues. But to already create the negativity when they have not even started. They have not even, this is their first budget. Okay, it will be their first budget.
Certainly not.
And also, and that's what I'm saying, what we are promising people, for example, there is going to be exemption of tax to manufacturers of human medicine and vaccines and veterinary medicines and things like that. Why? We know that our people are suffering because of the cost of healthcare. That is being addressed through this. We are also trying to promote manufacture within the country. And also, when it talks about the aviation sector, Kenya has never been competitive for aviation training, for aviation, repairs and all. So this tax breaks to the aviation sector is to make Kenya a more attractive place for training of pilots, because people would prefer to come to Kenya. Research has been done on this to make us more attractive in that regard. So yes, this is not PR. It is very, very clear what has come in. If you look, climate change is a big problem. LPG gas, the taxes have gone down.
I'll come back to you so that we
Ayub, if you allow me to address some of the issues raised by my colleague here.
You have the time.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to just advise Kenya Kwanza to listen to the voice of the people. You know, in the Bible says that the voice of the people is the voice of God. The people, you know, all over the country are unhappy. Their disposable income is already quite low, and anything that touches on that really messes them up. You know, you've said that the 16% VAT on fuel is not going to raise the cost of living. I mean, there's nothing that is further from the truth than that comment, because the minute you raise the cost of fuel, the cost of electricity also will be touched, the cost of transportation goes up, and the minute you touch the cost of transportation, automatically all goods and services value goes up. That means that all goods on the shops and all services that are being provided because they have to move people up and down will also go up. So we are concerned about that. So please do not touch the cost of VAT. VAT on fuel. Now, you talked about how Kenyans are not highly taxed. Other countries are paying taxes. I remember your president gave three countries and talked about how, you know, their tax to GDP, I don't know. Let me tell you, Kenyans are highly taxed because Tunisia's average income, average salary is 176,000. South Africa, which he mentioned, is 187,000 a month. Morocco is 263,000 per month. That's average salary. In Kenya is 22,000. You cannot compare us with those countries. We are doing very badly. So if you tax a Kenyan, it's not the same as taxing those people in those other countries. And then let's talk about this thing of providing employment, because they're saying we are going to provide employment for Kenyans. In the housing industry, the construction industry is basically a contract-based kind of employment. It's not full-time employment, because a mason building a house will take about 3 months. The mason and his casuals to put up the walls and to plaster and the floors, that's about 3 months. On a house, those 2.5 million houses, one 2-bedroom house. An electrician will take about 3 days. A plumber will take about a week. That's a length of time that these people will be employed for. But then you're telling us that you're taking money from us so that you can give them full-time employment. It's not true. And let's talk about, because it's really important. You said this housing levy is not a tax, it is a saving. Why do you take money from me and tell me you're saving for me? And I want you to understand this. When you take the money, you've told us you're putting up houses. After you put up houses, what will you have? Will you have money or houses? So the time when we want our money back, because assuming all Kenyans say we want our money back after 7 years, how will you be able to return that money if you have built houses with that money? So there's a lot of things in this that don't make sense. Let's talk about the figures, Ayub. Now, the person who pays the highest amount will pay 2,500, and the employer will pay 2,500. That's 5,000 shillings a month. Now, assuming that they buy a family house, a 2-bedroom house, about 2.5 million, it will take them 500 months to be able to pay for that house. That works out to 41 years and 8 months. Who's going to pay a mortgage for 41 years and 8 months?
But the
if you start working...
The president has said that there's also the option of own to rent or rent to own?
Yeah, but I'm looking at the figures. I'm looking at, I'm talking about the kind of money that people are contributing. Let me tell you what is happening.
Is your concern the deductions or the time?
My concern is the time, and my concern is also the affordability for most of the people. The average Kenyan, let's talk about the average Kenyan who earns 22,000. They will be contributing 660 shillings, the employer 660 shillings per month. That's 1,320. For them to afford a house of 2.5 million, it will take them 157 years. And that's why we are being told there's an option or take your money back. That's why the option is there, because most of these people may not be able to afford these houses. But then, let me tell you, what is happening. They've already put up some houses in the previous regime. If you go to those houses, the people who own them, some of them don't live in those houses. So what they have done is they've opted to rent them out. The kind of money that is being paid for rent in those houses is exactly the same amount as other commercial buildings. So there's nothing preferential. And look, if you buy a house, if you make me buy a house in Nairobi, and I'm a public servant, and I get a transfer to Mombasa, can I carry my house to Mombasa? What do I do with that house? That's why I'm saying, let us put policy, but not force people to buy houses in specific urban areas.
All right. And one thing that the administration pegs on this is generally the larger picture of generating our own revenues, scaling up our revenue streams. How then, what will be the alternative if you are in government, say, for example, for you to raise revenues? What will be your answer
for me,
to the question of revenue?
Let me tell you, Ayub, what I think is the main problem. The main problem is two things. One, you've articulated, it's an issue of corruption. We lose a lot of money. Former President told us we are losing 2 billion a day, actually.
And no action was taken.
And no action was taken. So, unfortunately, that's one area. The other area is in wastage. You know, there is so much wastage in these in government. You know, you look at the kind of vehicles ministers are driving in. You look at the number of people that they are recruiting as assistant ministers and an unconstitutional office. There is so much wastage. You know, government is wasting too much money. You know, in our own personal budgets, we look at the kind of money we have and we come up with projects that are able to fit within our budget. The government is constantly living beyond its means. And I think what the government needs to do, instead of squeezing the Kenyans, they need to figure out what can they cut down on. And I can tell you there's too much wastage. There's just too much wastage in government. The amount of, I mean, there's ministers who from the time they were appointed to be CS, I mean, they've never been on land for more than a day. They land, they're taking off tomorrow. They come back, they take off the next day. I mean, they're constantly in the air. It's a very expensive, it's a very expensive affair. For me, reduce wastage, cut down expenses, cut your cloth to fit your size. Okay, and Kenyan MPs, you two included, are one of the highest paid in the world, and in top 5 in the world. Would you support any proposal to slash your salary? I don't think that is... I mean, a discussion for now, but let me say...
down on spending.
No, help.
Okay, we'll talk about...
But I would support if there was any wastage in any public sector, including...
No, he doesn't want to give up his salary.
Including parliament. Okay. If there's any wastage, yes, it should be stemmed. Okay. Yes.
Well, wastage is aside, austerity is another matter, killing corruption is another matter, and if such a proposal comes before parliament, richer countries, who have 10 times our GDP in Europe, including Germany, are paid less. I mean... But Kenyan MPs are one of the highest, and yet...
And he has said he's not ready to give up his salary.
If such a proposal comes, just hypothetically...
Yes, let me say this. Let me say this. From the time I was elected in 2013, I've never participated in any debate about my salary, whether to increase it or reduce it. I have never. It has never been a topic of discussion. Okay. And I'll tell you this. Even before Parliament was paid the amount that is being paid now, members, citizens were still vying for these offices. So for me, my interest is to represent the people, not the money that I'm paid, because I have my own money I can survive on.
Thank you.
So for me, I think the issue of wastage, if the salaries are too high, they can be reduced. That's not an issue.
Okay.
But he can also donate his salary to the housing fund if he doesn't need it.
I have no problem. By the way, the truth. Let me tell you, Ayub, and I thank God that has come up. A member of parliament earns well over 1 million shillings. So the 2,500 contribution for a member of parliament, to be very honest, is almost a drop. Okay. So it doesn't really affect the member of parliament.
Thank you.
It affects the hustlers that they purported to want to represent. Okay. And Pauline Waithera being one of them, this lady in the headlines of Daily Nation today who says she was used. These are the people that we are speaking
for. Honorable Gladys Boschele, I come to you.
Yeah, but I think he's also assuming that people at a lower salary, because the maximum is 2,500, but there are people who are paying 300 shillings. and so on.
It depends on your income.
Yes, depends on your income. So I don't think nobody's paying. Not everyone is paying 2,500. By the way.
Okay, Honorable Gladys Boss, you will get your point. And earlier on, you said that it's not a tax, and it's a contribution. You said
yes,
but a contribution. You agree with me, which is still a deduction and affects pay slips of employees.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's just allow me to just set the basis for this issue of why the housing levy is actually in the interest of the hustlers who voted for us and the people who voted for him. Let's give a case example. This was from a study. Mukuru kwa Njenga, kwa Ruben and Viwandani. It sits on 689 acres. It has 100,000 households. It has a population of about 400,000 people.
Okay.
That means its people are sitting on top of each other, literally. In that place, in this area, Mukuru, 95% of the dwellers there rent their tenants. And in these iron sheet shacks that they live in, and matope shacks, their rent per dwelling unit is 2,500 a month for the shack. So if you think of the rent collected in that area of Mukuru, it's 230 million shillings every month that's collected in rent. Yeah, and this translates to 2.8 billion per annum in rent. So, but the worst part also is that not only do they pay so much rent for a place that they don't whatever, look, they have to pay, they pay 172% more for water than I pay. Because remember, they sell them in jugs, jerry cans, and it means they charge more. So I don't pay they don't pay the same rate as me. They pay 172 more. Then every day they pay to use the toilet. He doesn't pay to use the toilet where he lives. They pay electricity, they pay about between 45% more and 142% more. So is it really moral for me as a leader to oppose ensuring that these people who not only live in the worst squalid conditions, but also that they are our citizens? Is it wrong for us to have a responsibility to contribute towards, not money that I'm giving, it's not a tax, because tax goes one way, it never comes back.
But it's still a deduction.
Yes, it's a deduction. Okay. But it doesn't go one way like tax. So that these people in Mukuru kwa Njenga can have a decent living. Because it is us leaders, they're the ones who vote for us. Today he owns a house, he drives a car, he has a comfortable office, and he can use a bathroom anytime without having to pay for it. So yes, I think we also must think about the morality of it. So when you tell me that this housing plan is not going to help the hustler who voted for us, it is indeed directed at helping the hustler. Yes, I might feel a little pinch now, but yes, that is how life is. Okay.
Honorable Shole, then let's come to the money aspect. Yeah. And you agreed it's a deduction.
It's deducted. Okay. It's a saving.
Okay.
But it's just, okay, look at, don't you pay NSSF?
Yes, I do.
NSSF is a deduction and it's a saving. And NHIF. Okay. Don't you pay that? Because that's the law.
Which raises...
And the reason why a responsible country will say we don't want old age poverty, which we have now. That's why people contribute to NSSF. And NHIF, we want everyone to be able to get affordable health care. It has not worked because the amount we were contributing is the same 200 shillings since independence. So we have not been reviewing it according to current economic status.
Okay.
So I just want to speak strongly about this because, again, it's being made as if the finance bill is supposed to torture Kenyans and not help them, and that we're not listening to Kenyans. Kenya Kwanza government is listening to the voice of Kenyans. And me, as I vote yes for this finance bill, I am listening to the voice of Kenyans. Yesterday we were in Narok County.
Narok West.
Yeah. And people stood up and said, tumechoka kuishi kwa manyumba ya matope. Tuwezi ishi Manyata throughout. Letea sisi your affordable housing. Sisi to do it. And if you look at a place like where we were, the land is so vast. People are very sparsely populated. So you can never give them water. You can never give them electricity because they are scattered all over. It's too expensive. But if you do an affordable housing compound where you put them in that place and then you're able to have them do their farming activities, it means they can provide schools. You can provide housing, decent housing. And that is what, so we are listening to the voice of the people. Everywhere you go, every single day, if you look at my phone, every single WhatsApp group is to raise money for healthcare, to raise money for schools, for kids to go to school. So Kenyans are crying for better hospitals, better schools, better houses, better roads. So when people ask for this, we are listening to them by developing a finance bill that can finance all these items that they're asking for. So we are not, our communication as leaders to the ordinary Mwananchi, we are not telling them the correlation between these taxes being paid and the services that they get. Yes. The correlation must always be done.
Okay, thank you. Now, coming to the point, coming to the money aspect, Honorable Gladys Bose-Sholei, once these deductions are done, say the bill passes in Parliament, once this becomes law, and we come to the money aspect, where will this money go?
Which money?
The levy.
Oh, no, that one is going to be under a separate housing development fund, which is managed, like all our pensions. I'm sure your pension also is managed by either Britam or all those big companies that have reinsurance and then reinsurance to protect your money.
To be specific, what is that form of trustee? Does it have a shape? How does it look like? What's the
I think there will be, I forget offhand exactly how it works, but it's going to be run in the format of a pension fund where you have a board, where you have the managing banks. So there'll be banks that will manage the money, just like our pension funds. There will be the institution. They are called, I forget the name they are called, those the type like Britam, the ones that manage like insurance and things.
Local or international banks?
Usually you'd find that I'm sure it's going to be local banks. Yes.
And that institution you have mentioned, to be specific, does it have a name?
No, I know because previously in the first housing fund, I think that was the company that was managing it.
Okay. What is the legal framework around the money?
There is the Housing Act.
Is it active now?
It's currently there were some amendments done, and to tweak it to improve it, and I think the structure has been developed. I haven't had the chance to study it, but I do know the broad frame is, everybody knows the way proper pension funds are managed, especially the private ones, which I think all of us are involved in, including the people in Parliament, most public servants, and so on. Their pension funds are managed by private entities. Yes.
Private entities?
Yes.
So a private entity will be handling the money of the Kenyan people?
They manage. They are hired as professionals. Yeah. It's just that you can get an actuarial scientist to be able to organize for you and give you financial advice and so on. But there is under an act of Parliament. I think, let me not say that I have all the details with me on this, but I'm happy to talk about it when I show, when I've read it, because I understand the concept, but I haven't looked at the mechanics of it. But I know it's secure, because I know Kenyans had a problem, did not want it managed at the Treasury. Okay. They wanted it managed the way private pension funds are managed. Okay.
So you're assuring Kenyans, the Kenyan people that...
the structure is solid. I know that the structure is solid.
Okay. Yes. So we can hold you by that word going forward.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Mbui.
Now, first and foremost, Ayub, I'm concerned if they say they're listening to the voice of Kenyans, are they not aware that we are at an all-time economic low? And Kenyans are seriously suffering. Even just putting food, 3 square meals on the table is a tall order for Kenyans. Affording the fees for their children, even buying them uniform and clothes is a big issue. So I would say that taxation is not necessarily a bad thing. Raising taxes at a period when the country is going through serious economic challenges is a mistake. I mean, look at the rate of suicides that is happening within even the civil service, the police. Recently saw that lady that killed she attempted to kill 2 children. One died, one survived. And when she was arrested, she said, look, the world has become unbearable, and I didn't want to, leave my children suffering. So this is what we are talking about. The cost of living in this country is too high. This is not the time to make it worse. The disposable income is too low. Do not reduce it any further. Kibaki and Raila built houses, and if you remember the program that was done for the people of Kibra, because if you're going to address the issue of the people living in the slums, they did attempt to build houses, and they didn't tax everyone for it. They used the taxes that are already collected. We could use that and start a program where we can start moving people out of those slums. But for every single Kenyan, 3.1 million of us to be told that we must contribute so that the 50 other million will be built for houses, I think is not realistic. And again, I want to ask you, the Mama Mboga is not a contributor. How is she going to own the house? These houses are supposed to be for those that are contributing. Mama Mboga is not employed, is not salaried, so they are not contributors. So when you keep telling us we are going to support the hustlers, I mean, that's how they're using the hustler name. Because the Mama Mboga who's not contributing doesn't qualify for that affordable house. It is those people that are contributors that are supposed to qualify for the house. Majority of them will not be interested because they already have, mortgages for their own houses. And some of the Kenyans who are salaried, the salary is too low to afford that house. So for me, I think there is a lot that needs to be discussed on this thing. And then when you say it's a saving, I've asked this before. If you build the houses with the money, how will you be able to return the money to us? Because assuming that I want my money back after 7 years, you've taken my money, you've built houses with it. How will you refund my money when I say I want the money back? And you do not know how many people will want their money back. So I think there's a lot of things that have not been, canvassed properly. They've not listened to the voice of the people. They've not given us an opportunity to discuss and agree with this thing. So I think for me, it's an unfortunate situation. Again, remember, the devolution that came with the Constitution 2010 was supposed to help reverse the rural-urban migration. People were always coming to the cities to look for work. They're coming to the city, and then, of course, they require proper dwellings. Let us strengthen devolution. Give the counties money so that they can develop their counties and people can go back to their counties. Then they don't have to live in slums in Nairobi. That's what I would encourage them to do. Just follow the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and you'll be able to solve some of these problems. In fact, one of the issues in the Constitution 2010, the fourth schedule, talks about housing as one of those, functions that is actually for the county governments. Let Sakaja deal with our housing in Nairobi. Let the governors deal with the housing issue in their counties, so that you don't come to centralize and take our money. And we are also concerned. There are no clear regulations on how this money will be managed. And we are also scared that when they come to put our bodies, these bodies will probably be made up of people from 1 or 2 tribes, and the rest of us will be kept out. And yet our money is being taken to be used for this program. So I think we are a bit uncomfortable. And finally, let me say that the government doesn't have to build houses for its people. Let the government deal with the infrastructure. Let the government deal with health. Let the government deal with education, because all those areas are failing. Before you get to our personal space of dealing with our housing, let's deal with those things that are purely public and provide a conducive environment so that we can get foreign direct investment. Everything they're doing with this bill, you've heard foreign investors have said, you're making it impossible for us to invest in Kenya. The taxes are too heavy. We will move out. And you will lose about 100,000 jobs. Private schools have said you lose 25,000 employees. I mean, look, why are we doing something that is going to make Kenyans lose jobs? Let us provide the infrastructure, and let us provide a conducive environment for people to do business so that we can grow the economy. Not to tax us. You can't tax me to riches. Okay.
Are you then, when you say you can't, of course, Kenyans are taxed, and
excessive taxes.
And any government of the day must fund its budget, including the Kenya Kwanza administration's first budget, which is forthcoming for the year 23/24. So when you talk about the government pulling out of this, then do you then mean the private sector coming in? Or
No, no. I'm saying this.
What will be your proposal?
My proposal is that on this particular matter of housing, at the current situation, because of the current economic situation we are in, I would ask that they put it aside first. Let us deal with those things that are really an issue also, but they're public related. For example, education. You know that we have junior secondary schools. They don't have enough classes. We have junior secondary schools. They do not have labs. Let us concentrate our energies on putting those things first. But when you tell me that you haven't, my children will go to a school without a classroom, without a lab, and you're telling me you want to build for me a house, I think that's a bit personal. Deal with those issues that are public. You can finally deal with the issues that are private when you've sorted out the public issues. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, Honorable Boss, I come to you. I'm looking at data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, and it says 3 million Kenyans employed in the formal workforce. Out of that number, 1.82 million workers, about 60.5% of Kenyans earn below 50,000 shillings. More than half, or a million workers, 17% of Kenya's formal workforce, earn below 30,000 Kenya shillings. And in the very same report, it says that the informal sector, which accounts for 83% of the country's workforce, created 702,900 new jobs, which constituted 86.1% of all the new jobs created outside small-scale agriculture and pastoralist activities. I mean, as a government, what will be your policy and how do you tailor it around to target this informal workforce, which is the majority, more than 80%, and even as you seek more taxes, tax them as well so that it expands the tax base that we are looking into? And the case of Singapore that you have given is that one of the issues that Singapore addressed was to increase its tax base, then embark on the housing project. How do you go about that?
Okay, first of all, let's make it clear that when you are undertaking one program, it doesn't mean you do it to the exclusion of other programs. So the fact that the government has a housing development program, it does not mean they will stop building schools, building hospitals, and so on. Yes, and roads. All those, they all go concurrently. So you cannot say, oh, just do the other things and leave this one. All of them, the population is continuing to grow. Our population base is bottom heavy, which means these kids are going to grow up and need homes and all. So you can't say we develop that and leave this. When you talk, so, and for me, it's very important that I respond to Honorable Mbui on this issue. He said that why don't we wait and build the houses slowly and so on? The population is growing so fast that the danger is Kenya will become one big slum of people living in informal settlements, and we can't afford that to happen. The reason why the money is raised through the Housing Development Levy is so that you can have a pool of money which will amount to 30 billion a month, and therefore you're able to put up houses monthly, you know, and get, because look how many years did Kibra take to grow. We can't grow the houses at that pace. We must turn Kibra into a real estate of beautiful homes that people can live in. On the issue of the more houses we build, the more rents will go down. You see, now it's because we have shortage of houses. That's why people pay high rent. And so the hustler is happy to have the rents go down. But the big owners of houses like Bui have a problem with that, because it means their income on their rental incomes is going to go down. The other issue is, if you look at this, and he has asked a very important question, that suppose after 7 years, suppose everyone applies to get their money back. Actually, that's an impossibility. That's how insurance works. Not all of us make our claims at the same time. If I start this year, I'm on year 7. By year 7 will come with yours. But my children, their year 7 won't fall the same time as me. Yeah, because they'll get into employment late. So it can never happen at the same time, you know. So you just have to discuss with an actuarist, and they'll be able to explain to you the mechanics of it. When we talk about, so when these houses are built, and I would ask Honorable Mbui and any other Kenyan who's objecting, especially the members of parliament, you can go to the Pangani housing, affordable housing that has been done. You can go to the one in Rongai. The way it's done is that you can get from one room You know how you pay the 2,500 for one room with no toilet and no bathroom and no kitchen because you cook outside? There is now going to be, there is even in those structures, there's going to be the decent one room and even with a shared kitchen. So you still can pay the usual 1,000 or 2,500 you are paying, but it's a decent house. That is the whole concept of it. And I would urge you as someone in the media to go and look at it. There is there is 3 bedrooms, there is 2 bedrooms, there is 1 bedroom, and then there is bed sitters with shared bathroom space and cooking area. So that there will be the whole concept of affordable housing, that's why it's called affordable housing, is that there will be a house for every size of a pocket, except that it will be decent housing. When we talk about, when you disregard the fact that during the construction people get jobs, even if those jobs are lasting for 7 months, you know what it does? You at least have gotten some capital that you can start some other activity. You know what's happening to people? That's why the Hustler Fund is popular. They don't have money to even start a business. People told us that to start a Mutura selling business, you only need 500 shillings. And that can immediately set a system where you can be able to feed your family every day. You can get something at least every single day. So let us not look down upon small work. During the building of the affordable housing, I can't remember in exactly where, the contract for the windows was given to the Juakali people. And the whole area where the Juakali guys were, I think it's the ones at Ngong Road or someplace, they were told, you all build this size windows. Because in fact, affordable housing is having standard windows, standard doors, standard everything, so that our Juakali sector can get business. And you know what? They made billions of shillings. And they said there's no chance in hell that they would ever have had an opportunity to make that amount of money. And today, they have moved to a bigger business.
Thank you.
Yes. So it's like, if you give business at that time to the border guy, the next time they are going to have a car. And get into the taxi business.
Thank you. Honorable Shole, I'm looking...
Oh, yeah, and lastly, we must realize Kenyans at the moment, only 30,000 mortgages are out there. 30,000 people. We should grow that by 1 million shillings. By 1 million people, yes. And we are saying, you have 2,500, you can get a mortgage that fits your 2,500 shillings. So instead of paying rent, you're paying that money to be able to as you own. Yes. And so the concept is bigger than... in fact, I now realize from just speaking to Honorable Bui that people have heard about this housing program, but they've not studied it. And I'm going to email you this document, and I'll sit with you. I'm offering to be your teacher. And I know you.
Hang on.
And I know by there I'll convince him because he's a reasonable person.
Honorable Shole, and I'm looking at... hang on. Honorable Shole, I'm looking at some of the pronouncements made by your campaign team in the run-up to the August elections last year. And you talked about the debt challenge that Kenya was facing, the fiscal consolidation programs that your government will tailor. And here you are lining up the biggest budget in Kenya's history. It seems the logic of the government is that we have a revenue problem than a spending problem. Why not craft a budget that can be within our means so that you tax the Kenyan people less?
Okay, first of all, if you look at what has happened is, I think there was a 1.1 trillion budget, but then there was another 2. No, okay, let me forget about those figures. Let's do this. The Kenya Kwanza administration has already reduced our borrowing by 300 million.
300 billion.
300 billion. They've reduced our borrowing by 300 billion. It is felt that if we're able to raise our own revenue, we can systematically continue to reduce borrowing. Because remember, when you borrow money, it costs a lot of money to pay it. And so you can't sit back and say, let's not raise any more revenue to make life easy for Kenyans. But I must correct this. Honorable Bui, when you say there's extra taxes, is the Mama Mboga importing steel? No. But if steel is manufactured locally, they'll get cheaper steel and they will be able to be employed because they'll be manufacturing. Is Mama Mboga going to be affected by imported fish? No. it will mean the fish that she's selling from Lake Victoria is more competitive. So in fact, we are talking about, you know, we are pretending that they are going to suffer. No. We are speaking for importers. We want to get fish from China at the expense of our local fishermen. It will make us, because if we make the fish from imported fish expensive, by putting the tax, yes, to importing, then the people in the coastal area, in the lake areas, are going to thrive. So it is for the Mama Mboga. I don't know why we are trying to twist it as if, oh my God, Mama Mboga is going to be taxed. She's not importing fish. She wants to buy local fish.
Hang on, wait. One final question. You made... and this was the then UDA presidential candidate, Excellency President William Ruto. He said he won't tax the people at the bottom of the pyramid more, and that taxes...
and that's exactly what has happened.
Okay, but there's a proposal by Treasury, by the Kenya Revenue Authority to have its officers on the ground who will be working day by day to target the same Mboga that you have talked about.
Sorry? But then that is not illegal. The law says that everyone must pay tax.
But you promised not to tax them more.
We are not, you see, they're not being taxed more. We are just trying to make sure nobody is avoiding, is not evading tax. Tax evaders are not to be spared. That's clear. So are you saying that we didn't promise that we'd allow you to evade tax? No. We said we'll improve our revenue collection.
And you promised not to tax them more?
No, it will not be additional tax. They'll just have to pay what they are due to pay.
So it will be a supervision of whether they pay or not?
Yes, yes. Because what also is happening is we are collecting 50% of taxes we should actually be collecting.
Thank you.
VAT, we are collecting less than 50% of what we should be collecting.
Thank you.
Why? There are many people evading tax.
Thank you.
And tax evaders, it's illegal, it's a criminal offense.
Thank you. Now, before we take the feedback.
Let me say that we have to stop doing PR on this issue. My colleague here has raised the issue of Mama Mboga, and they're saying that Mama Mboga will not be taxed more. I want to educate her that Mama Mboga will now be expected to pay 3% on turnover. And why am I saying Mama Mboga? Because they have reduced the bracket from those that are making sales of over $1 million to those that are making sales of over 500,000. And then the turnover tax has gone up from 1% to 3%. So that means that the Mama Mboga selling 1,370 shillings will have to forfeit 3% of our sales, whether profit or not, on a daily basis. Again, Mama Mboga will pay more to transport her wares to the market. So that obviously means that the cost of doing business for her will go up. So this bill is affecting Mama Mboga. I want to advise, and I want to confirm this, that for me, what Kenya Kwanza should deal with is improve healthcare, because we've had problems of healthcare from time immemorial. Improve education, improve the infrastructure, and also provide, taxation that is friendly, so that we can encourage investors to invest in this country, to build the economy, so that we can grow more jobs and we can pay people better. Once we do that, we can reduce now taxation on building materials, so that people can build their own houses. So for me, I think we are getting into personal space too early. Allow people to be able to afford their homes.
So, but Honorable Mbui, how do you justify that case of affordable housing? And Honorable Shole has mentioned, and we're out of time. How do you justify affordable housing costs when you, parliamentarians, are insured by private companies?
I don't get your question. I don't get your question.
My question is then, when you talk about affordable housing,
yes,
how do you justify the point of parliamentarians and parliament in Kenya, and largely the civil service, who are covered by private firms, yet you want affordable healthcare through NHIF and universal healthcare coverage? Is that fair to the Kenyan people?
Well, for me, I think that's why I've raised this issue. That's why I've raised this concern, that what the government needs to do is invest in healthcare, so that we can build the healthcare infrastructure in the country. Invest in education. We improve the education infrastructure. Proper infrastructure for doing business, so that we can be able to grow the economy. For me, when you start getting into personal space of building houses for us, when we cannot go to decent hospitals, when our children are going to dilapidated schools, for me, I think that's
the reason why they go to hospital.
Before the horse. Let us deal with the issue of the things that are concerned us as a public. And we are not a communist country. We are not a communist country. I'll work for my money and buy my house or take a mortgage. And even that person that you are calling Mama Mboga in the rural area has actually got a decent home. So let's work on improving the infrastructure for the people to be able to grow more money, earn more money, and be able to afford their houses.
I'll give
yes.
Can I sample the feedback and give you the final word as you also add up to that? Or
let me just say this. The reason why we have serious problems of healthcare has also got to do with the slum dwelling. That's where there is cholera. That's where people get smoke into their chest. That is how people are using kerosene and are getting lung problems. That is where there is poor sanitation. Our children have mashilingi and skin problems and so on. So if we deal with we give people decent housing, immediately it will ease the burden on healthcare.
Thank you.
And then I'll talk about restructuring of NHIF
okay, I'll give you
and private insurance.
Broadcast. Here is what you're saying on Twitter. The hashtag is Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Patrick Langat says, Serikali haishindwi, we will pass the finance bill. Ask Boshole if public participation was of any sense if you keep hearing such statements from KK leaders. He meant the statement made yesterday by Silvanus Osoro. Bali Jibril says Kenyans want affordable food. And Edward Ndalo says, why is the government forcing that housing levy? Kenyans have said they don't want it. Let the government abide by that. Furthermore, we have other pressing issues that the government needs to work on rather than focusing on the housing issue. Ernest_HSC says the confusion in leaders allied to Kenya Kwanza continues to raise more doubt on what exactly is entailed in the finance bill. Every leader in that camp has his explanation and interpretation about the finance bill or the housing levy. I think the entire bill should be scrapped off. Honorable Lilian Sioi says, I know this finance bill will pass. What Kenyans should be discussing right now is how the contract to supply doors, windows, cement, building blocks will be fairly distributed. The housing agenda will create big business. Bobo Tiono Wino says the opposition knows very well if the finance bill 2023 goes through, Kenya Kwanza's scorecard will rise and they are taking advantage of the economic hardship. We are in to pick 1 or 2 points to fight against it. Ken Nyaminda says, ask Gladys how a person living in Kibra and does not have a payslip will own a house. Also, after how long will someone get to fully own a house? Magwas 3 says, why was the taxpayers' money wasted taking the finance bill through public participation if at the end of their voice and views won't count or considered? Are we heading into dictatorship? Wanye S2 says the increased taxes in the finance bill are being imposed on us. As the president said, our eyes and ears are equally on the legislators who will betray the common man. Frank Orinde says the DP, and the president said that no more roads or developments in areas whose MPs will oppose the finance bill 2023. In the same breath, let KRA also not tax citizenry from same areas since they will not receive government services. Okay, Honorable, shall I begin with you?
Yes, first of all, I think...
You keep it brief, at the best interest.
I'll keep it brief, yes. Yeah, I was just saying, no citizens are going to be taxed. We are taxing imports in order to promote, to bring down the cost of living. I want to bring the attention to Article 43 of the Constitution on social or economic and social rights. It says every person has a right to attainable to the highest possible attainable standard of health and also to healthcare services. They have a right to accessible and adequate housing of reasonable standards of sanitation. It also says that they have a right to be free from hunger and have adequate food of acceptable quality. They also have a right to clean water and other quantities and a right to social security. Social security, we are talking about this housing because it's a saving. When you talk about clean water and so on, it's also got to do with the housing project. When you talk about healthcare, it's why we are saying let's add taxes on imported medicine so that we have locally manufactured medicine that's cheap. So you can see everything that is in the finance bill is to attain our economic and social rights as enshrined in Article 43 of the Constitution. Me, who held the Bible and swore to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution of Kenya, I am doing exactly that by voting yes. If you vote no, then you're saying your people don't have these rights.
Okay. Yes, Honorable Mbui.
I think...
and lastly, the people of Kibu, yes. Mm-hmm.
Members of Parliament from Kenya Kwanza need to know that they're in the House to represent the people that voted for them and not the executive. In fact, we are there to oversight the executive. And there's an assumption from Kenya Kwanza that Kenyans have not read the finance bill. I am happy. The comments that have been put here by our viewers clarify that Kenyans understand the finance bill and are saying, let us reject it.
Thank you for your time and the company here on the broadcast. Honorable Robert Mbui is the Deputy Minority Leader at the National Assembly, as well as the lawmaker representing Kathiani constituency. Your time is all appreciated. Honorable Gladys Bose-Shule, many thanks for your company. A pleasure always having you here on the broadcast. She is the woman MP, Uasin Gishu County, and the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. And thank you to you too, the Kenyan public, for watching this broadcast. Always here to inform you, hold those in power to account substantially, and to grow our democracy in the long run. And up next is Sporty Monday. Ibra, it's interesting. I'm looking at the running order Willis has sent, and appears not a reflection of what exactly transpired at Wembley in London. So 3 casualties are here. May I call them Musketeers? Willis, who is a Manchester United fan, Zita, who is a Manchester United fan, and the other gentleman, you will see him here on the broadcast, Fred Arocho, who are all casualties of what transpired at Wembley. But the city of Manchester isn't united. Thanks for watching. Good morning.